What you got there?
All right. So if you are watching this on our YouTube replay, this is just before we record the show. This is background information for you all to know. And thank you, by the way, for heading to our YouTube channel, which, by the way, is LouisvilleAnswers.com, in case you haven't figured this out. So you're probably here, so you're watching it on our YouTube replay. And so you're just seeing a little behind the scenes as we're getting ready. Each guy, lady is in their own homes. And so this has become the new norm for us, right, folks? Don't you think?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're going to hit a start button on my timer. This will go 28 minutes total, but we're going to break for a 1-minute commercial insert for the two companies that aren't represented, the Remax and the Home Warranty Company. But other than that, everything else is a go, and we'll go around the horn as we did last week. Anybody have any other suggestions, any changes you want to make as we move forward on this?
Should Chuck and I go forward with like a beard growing contest? Should we start at scratch and see who can go?
You'll never win. He's got
I know. He's got a head start. Yeah.
Okay.
Should I run my cats out of the room who are currently rolling around and
No, you're fine. Your lighting stinks, though. Just so you know, you got a light behind you to the side.
I know.
I don't. We need to work on that for next week. I get it. And for a whole, holding it for a half hour, I know it's tough, but we can get through it. But
all right. Okay.
I put up some new lights in the front just to give me more. But that's another story, another day. All right.
I'll get my husband to work on that.
Yeah, you can get that on there. Everybody ready? You guys all set? All right. Here we go. And if you hear dogs barking, that's because they're running around. In 3, 2, and 1. Good Sunday morning. Bob Sokoler and the Louisville Real Estate Show with you on News Radio 840 WHAS. And another big week. We're all doing our show from our homes, and hopefully you guys you got a lot of information that we're going to share with you. Let me just first welcome the folks here in the studio. Well, in the studio, by that meaning their own homes. Chuck Crosby, the Crosby Law Offices at 499-6360. Good to see you, Chuck.
Good morning, Bob.
Good morning. In for Kevin Dissler, Kelly Human, who has done the show with us before. And you can reach the folks over at Pitt and Frank Attorneys at 895-9900. Also, Lee Harris, who's legal counsel, Limestone Title, 649-7964.
Good morning.
Also, good morning. Brad Lawler is owner of Home Team Inspection Service. I hire vets. They're great people. And certainly we love Brad and his team, and you can reach them for inspections at 357-0813. And finally, Randy, Rocky Swan Financial. They're still writing loans and refis as well, 645-0736. Hello officially to all of you folks. Thanks for joining us from your folks. Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, we got a lot to go through. Let's start, Randy, with you. I see you relaxing there. But and let's keep everything short. Try to raise your hands as we go through this. And by the way, if you want to see the recorded video that we do on this, we are posting it on YouTube. And to get there, very simple, LouisvilleAnswers.com. That's www.LouisvilleAnswers.com. Randy, just a health check of mortgages so far. You're still writing them, but fewer. Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah, it's down about 12%. But rates are incredible, and I think we're going to ramp up a lot of refinances. So I think that's going to really pick up because rates are really coming down.
We're going to talk about forbearance in a second. Hank, don't go there into a forbearance yet, but that's important, and we're going to talk about what that means. Let us go to Chuck Crosby. What's the week been like for you this past week in terms of closings?
We're actually pretty busy, but then again, we're about 30 days behind the realtors and the mortgage guys.
Yep, and we're going to talk about that as well. Lee Harris, update from your end over at Limestone.
Yes, it's been actually very busy, but again, I think the pipeline has been full, and so these are the closings that are, had been under contract, and but we're still getting a lot of orders and a lot of people still making contracts. So right now it doesn't look too bleak.
Okay. Kelly Human over at Pitt and Frank. How are things going for your group over there?
Yeah, I third that, Bob. We are still having a lot of busy days, which is exciting. The pipeline for refinances continues to be really strong, and our numbers are actually on point with, March-ish of last year. So yeah. I don't see a whole great dip yet either. We'll see.
And then Brad Lawler from Home Team, you're still doing inspections. Have you seen any lull in the request for inspections?
So we saw a little bit of a dip, but actually this past week was better than the week before. I don't know if that's telling us that we've hit bottom, but looking at listings, looking at pendings out there, we've actually bottomed out, it looks like last week. So I don't know if that's necessarily a trend, but it was a better week than a week ago.
But certainly hopeful. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Let me talk with Greg, because Greg, as you know, does all of our photography for our Sokoler team listings.
Yeah, my wife is an agent, one of our not to toot our horn top agents, but we've seen listings are still coming online. I think we're seeing a little bit of a shortening in the buyer pool where people were at the lower end of the spectrum. The higher price points are still strong because the qualified buyers, for the most part, still seem to have their jobs. But we are seeing a lot of new verbiage in contracts, employment verification, things like that being sent in contracts and in offers, where sellers are looking at certain things and asking for certain pieces of just verification to accept offers.
So, and we'll come back to that. So these are some very interesting topics that we're just touching on, folks. And just so you know, from my perspective, so I'm spending most of my days on Zoom calls with potential sellers. And we found this is a great workaround because we get a chance to talk and meet and review and explain. And in some cases, they want me to come out and actually visit with them when we list paperwork, when we do the paperwork listing. In other cases, I can send it through email, and they can do this through a system called DocuSign. I'm finding it that more of the older people who are not as tech savvy want me to come out, and the rest will work with it through DocuSign. So to say the market is dead is a fallacy. I think if agents are saying it's slow, it's not going forward, I think they're burying their head in the sand, and I think that's a lot of agents tend to do that, and the whole marketplace seems to think, okay, things are dying, but
it is getting slower. Don't be for,
But we are sheltering in place, all of us, and we're still getting the job done, and it can be done virtually. So what we've done, just so all of you know, and I think you actually are on target, we've got Matterport tours that we're offering virtually to walk 3D, buyers through.
3D tours,
3D tours.
So when Bob gets the paperwork, basically he'll flag me. I'll get in touch with the buyer seller, and we have our new restrictions. We make sure that the buyer and seller are out of the house well before we get in the house. Usually the buyer or the seller is actually leaving us Lysol wipes if they have, but we're also bringing in gloves and a mask. Mask is more important to make sure that if somebody has it, we're not spreading it. But we're going in there and being able to still function at a high level and at a very minimal risk.
And on top of that, for safety precautions, and I'm going to take us all around here for a second. You'll see my thinking here. So when a buyer, let's say they identify 2 or 3 homes that they want to see in person before they actually put an offer in, then our agents will don masks, gloves, eye protective gear, and take them in as long as the sellers will allow that to happen. The next step that's happened in the past couple of weeks is home inspectors like Home Team and Brad, you have adopted the new safety protocols for all of your inspectors as well, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we're following the COVID-19 safety guidelines, and so we are disinfecting hands and tools, and then gloving up before we go into a house. We are wearing masks now. Of course, my folks all go out as teams, so we drive in separate vehicles to the inspections, so we're keeping the distance there, and then we keep distance from one another while we're in the house. And then on the way out of the house, we're disinfecting every surface that we touched, any a countertop that we might have worked on that we set our laptop on, wiping all those things down, and then we're disinfecting all of our equipment at the end of the day before anything would even go into our homes.
Now, driving all of this are the lenders, because even if we bring them into a home, the buyers, and they want to buy a house, they still have to qualify. And so, Randy, in an outline form, if you would, let's talk about some of the new overlays that are being put on lenders, and not just Swan Financial, but what are some of the things that the lenders are now requiring to check on a buyer's worthiness? Because this will also give assurance to the sellers that may be listening to us that it's not someone who's going to get a pre-approval and then they'll find out, well, they're losing their job or they're no longer qualified. What's being done on your side?
Well, debt to income restrictions are happening, so they're going down. So you a little bit. They're being a little more conservative in that scenario. But sincerely, most of the time right now, it's business as usual until the closing, and then when the day of closing now.
You're dropping off on audio. Let's try pick it up again because we're on the internet.
And you send because sometimes the HR directors are just not at. They're not available.
So back up because I know what you were saying, but I don't think it came out clear because of the internet. So they verify the employment the day of closing is what you were saying. Nod your head if you would. Yeah, right. And then what's the credit score that's the bottom line now for available mortgages? Because that has gone up in terms of what the bottom line of a buyer's credit score is.
We could do a 600.
Okay.
And it used to be a 580 and some situations 550.
So one of the other obvious advantages are that a buyer can do all of the paperwork via the internet, which is spectacular. They don't have to actually go into a location and fill out paperwork. Am I correct about that?
Yes.
Okay. So that takes us, once the paperwork's done, the home inspection is done, then it takes us to the closing. So, Chuck, let's start with you. What have you done in the way of adopting new guidelines when a buyer and seller are supposed to close? I know from my perspective as a seller's agent or the buyer's agent, we're not supposed to be at the closing. Am I correct?
Right. We're following all the guidelines, as few people in as possible. Obviously, realtors ask that they stay out in the parking lot or at least join by phone because that's always an option. I find it to be, a pretty decent idea. Just get the agent on the line, let them sit through the portion of closing. Only one side of the deal at a time. We follow all the restrictions and then some. We actually had a doctor in the office to examine what we were doing and give suggestions as to how to make things a little bit better. One of the responses was to have the hand sanitizer on the table. She said, not really necessary as long as you're swabbing down like we are. But shout out to Jeff the Creed. They gave me a gallon of that hand sanitizer.
Wow.
You can use it to sanitize your hand, and then you take a shot with it.
Wait a second. I've got a great story. I was just at Karam's Deli in Norton Commons the other day, and they had the hand sanitizer on the thing. And I squirted. I was like, this is thin. I was like, it smells good. Can you take a shot? And he took the squirt bottle, and he shoved it in my face. He did it first, and he did it. It tastes delicious. I tell you.
Well,
guys,
the bourbon mash.
Got that. Plus, we're also, I was able to catch onto a box of gloves and masks. Most people that I'm running into are wearing the masks and coming in, so we'll don the masks, the gloves. If they want, we're outside. I've done plenty of outside closings. Still waiting for someone to set up the gazebo for the al fresco with margarita closings.
Yeah, well, that may be a little bit coming. Let me move over to it's coming. Yeah, I got you. Let me go to Kelly Euban. I saw your hand up over at Pitt and Frank.
Sure. I have the family here, so I apologize if there was some background.
That's perfectly fine. Don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I muted myself just so you didn't get to hear all that joy happening.
That's okay.
We have, we're in much the same place. I love the idea of having somebody come in the medical community and observe what's going on. That's a great idea. We've got a lot of hand sanitizer going on too, a lot of Lysol into the air, and definitely swabbing down everything. Fortunately, our conference rooms inside are glass. Most of our walls are glass at Pitt and Frank, so we can visibly see to notarize for signatures and things like that. We've got a really nice open air but covered patio as well. So I've been doing some closings al fresco. No margaritas, so there's room for improvement.
See, that's why Crosby Law has the edge.
Yeah.
I was not going to do a battle on this. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. I will say that the wind is not your friend when you're holding that large file of important secure documents.
I did come up with a bit of a solution for that. Y'all might want to try.
A rock?
When you're outside. No, well, no. We get those clipboards, and they come all wrapped in plastic, the cling wrap. You don't take that off. Makes it easier to swab those down.
Sure.
But I have 4 of them, so I'll put the file into fourths, and then you hand in the 1/4, and then go that route. So
Well, that's smart.
yeah, that's worked for us. If you all wanted to give that a whack.
That's a good idea. I'm the only one that well, there's a couple of us that like the outdoor closing. We actually have in our 3 conference rooms at the main office, 2 conference rooms and the other 2 offices here, and then 1 in Indiana. But we have the Zoom set up like this
Right.
for our closings as well.
Yeah.
So we're in our offices, and then we will put the buyer seller in separate conference rooms. The agents to jump in, on Zoom if they choose to do that. And then we can close everybody at the same time, although all in different places.
Yeah.
In that distance as well.
Let me move over to Lee Harris over at Limestone. Are you giving everybody who when they sign, they use pens, are you giving them the pen?
Yes.
Rather than
Yeah.
And I guess everybody's doing that. Yeah. So
Yeah, take it or toss it is what I say.
you get a free
Take it or
pen with
toss
your
it.
closing. There you go. That's a good thing.
Yeah, we got really nice pens. So if I were them, I'd take it home and use it.
So I know we talked about Limestone. You originally were talking about putting up an outside tent, and last week you said that went by the wayside. You don't need that, is that right? Yeah.
Right. We got glass. It's kind of like going to the bank and talking to a teller. So all of our conference rooms now, we have those glass barriers that you see when you go to the bank, and there's a 1-inch at the bottom where you can slide the papers back if you need to the closer. And so if people want to come in and do the closing, our receptionist is behind glass barriers, and all of our conference rooms have glass barriers. So the closer sits behind one, and the people who are signing sit behind the other. We also do out in the parking lot. We do in home. We will look through the window or look through the door. Anything they want to do, it's fine. We can make it work.
Done.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break for a moment. And when we come back, we're going to talk about whether it's a smart idea not to pay your mortgage. We'll talk about forbearance. We'll get into that with the crew because these folks are experienced with short sales, foreclosures, and what the ramifications are. Also a reminder that if you want to see this show that we're recording on Zoom while we are doing the radio show, go to LouisvilleAnswers.com. We'll have it there waiting for you, plus a little before and after the show. It's a bonus to you. And if you want to see what we're doing and what sellers have to say with us, go to LouisvilleSellersTalk.com or LouisvilleZillow.com. In the studio here with us from the Crosby Law Offices, Chuck Crosby at 499-6360, Randy Rocky, Swan Financial at 645-0736. Kelly Human is in for Kevin Dissler at Pitt and Frank Attorneys at 895-9900. Lee Harris, Legal Counsel, Limestone Title, 649-7964. Brad Lawler, owner of Home Team Inspection Service, 357-0813. And my son Greg, who does our marketing, our pictures, and so much more. And, of course, you can reach me anytime at my cell phone, Bob-Sokoler at 376-5483. You're listening to the Louisville Real Estate Show on News Radio 840 WHAS. News Radio 840 WHAS. We are back with the Louisville Real Estate Show, and we've got great folks here in the studio. We're discussing the state of the economy when it comes to real estate. There's good news that things are moving, progressing the way we would expect under what's going on nationally and internationally. In the studios, well, at their homes, I should tell you, Randy Rocky, Swan Financial, 645-0736. Chuck Crosby, Crosby Law Offices, 499-6360. Lee Harris, Legal Counsel, Limestone Title, 649-7964. Kelly Human is in for Kevin Dissler at Pitt and Frank Attorneys at 895-9900. And Brad Lawler over at Home Team Inspection Service, 357-0813. My son Greg, who does all of our marketing and pictures, and now, if you're watching the video, has his son Ari, my grandson Ari, behind us. And I'm Bob-Sokoler, and you can reach me at 376-5483. Okay, first thing in this section of the show, guys, there's people are being told don't pay your mortgages because the banks are going to give you a break. Let's go to Randy first, since he is with Swan Financial. That could hurt and come back to bite the potential buyer. Keep it short, Randy. We have a lot to get in here on this segment. What are your suggestions?
Largest servicer in the country is getting 40,000 requests requests.
We are
And all I
losing you,
can tell
Randy.
is
We're losing you. Say it again, because you're breaking up on us. Whatever your internet.
the
connection.
largest servicer in the country is getting 40,000 requests a day on forbearance. And if you can make your mortgage payment, make it. There's going to be credit issues, and you got to pay it eventually. And it's going to affect you buying another home. I really believe that it's not a good thing to do. If you can make your payment due, and if you can't, you can't. It's understandable then.
We're going to stop you there because your internet connection's terrible. So we'll move on. Keep there. Stay with it. We'll work on it for next week. Chuck Crosby. So forbearance. Explain technically what that is.
Well, it depends on which program you're getting into, but it's where your payments are put aside. They roll them to the back. There's a variety of things that are involved with it. It just, though, I'm a pessimist by personality and profession, so I just don't think it's necessarily a good idea. Even with the good things I'm hearing along those lines, it's run by humans. It's run by the government. So something's going to get screwed up. And it seems to me that in situations like that, it's the individual that's going to come out on the short end of the stick every time.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is you've promised to make the payments. So if you can, I think there's no good reason not to.
Well, there are a lot of people, Chuck, who are going, I don't have money to do this. So what's
but he's saying if you can.
If you can. I got that. Right.
Yeah. If you can't, you do what you have to do. I'm just saying that I hear a lot of people, and they're saying things like, "Oh, it's available. I'm going to do it." It's like, I wouldn't do it lightly. I would.
Well,
do
and
it
people
as a
are
last
confused.
resort.
People are confused about it. I know somebody personally who did it, and between her husband and herself were misunderstanding. Well, is it due after the 3-month period that they agreed to? Is it at the end of the 30-year term? Is there going to be penalties on top? They don't know, and they already did it. That's the scary part.
The thing that I keep going back to is after the last crash, they had all kinds of plans where the money you got behind on your payments. There were different plans to get that money paid, caught up, and then put at the end of your loan. And what happened as a practical matter, I mean, it looks good on paper, but as a practical matter, we had people come into closing thinking that their mortgage balance was what their statement said, but they had this other thing that had been sitting around getting interest that got dropped on them, and all of a sudden they're having to sell their house and they can't buy the next house.
All right, so take that as a note, folks, who are listening. But maybe not you, but maybe your kids or family members who are thinking they're not going to pay. Note that there are some consequences. Kelly Human and Lee Harris. Any suggestions from your end as attorneys and involved in all this? Suggestions?
Sure. And I've had the same question actually that Greg mentioned. A couple of people have contacted us just to ask, where does the payment come in? Do I do it after the forbearance time period, or do I add it on to the end of the loan? And my greatest advice is talk to your lender. Do not get off that phone call until you understand exactly what you're agreeing to and what your options are. Every lender is going to have different policies in place and different ideas for how to help you, but also how to help them. They have to be able to maintain all of these loans and all these mortgages and all these securities. So talk to your lender, make sure that you understand what you're agreeing to before you agree to it, number one. And number two, realize that the loan term in the original loan agreement if it's going to change, then you're going to have to look to a new loan agreement. So a forbearance is going to be an agreement in an interim time period, and that's going to have some specific consequences and benefits. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying make sure you understand it before you do it.
Lee Harris, anything from Limestone side of the scene that you want to add to this?
I mean, I think they've covered it. Okay. I mean, it's a good idea for someone who really, really needs it, but that's it.
Brad Lawler over at Home Team. I know you guys collect the fee for the home inspection up front, but that can be put on a credit card for a buyer. That may not be such a big deal because you got to pay for it one way or another.
Right. Yeah. Now that we're in this virtual walkthrough at the end, almost 100% of our payments are coming via credit card. So that hasn't been a problem for me. We've had a couple of requests from agents to help with some payments, but those have been pretty rare.
Got it. So. All right, so let me just tell you, and feel free, folks, to jump in anywhere along the lines here, some information that's just been coming out. In terms of the national drop-off around the country, in terms of sales and closings. The news is not necessarily all that good. It is cuckoo. I hear that. As the pandemic spreads in Seattle, for example, which is where it really broke out first in the United States, the number of new listings down 54% on a weekly basis. In the East Bay of market in California, 70% down.
Well, you got to remember, take that with the fact that we know LA or California is not allowing realtors to go to property. So their board has chopped them at the knees. They're still doing virtual. They can still go do a 3D tour. One guy can go in, but they are not allowed to. Their showing time
as of Wednesday. As of this past Wednesday, they are now considered essential, so they're able to actually do shows.
Well, their board has to get back in action.
Well, that's what they're doing. So, but I think what happened is
these stats, they were shut down.
Right, they were shut down. That's where the 70% came down. Santa Clara County, as of March 16th, new listings 48% down. Now, here's the good news out of all of this. I mentioned this briefly last week, folks. The available data from China, South Korea, and Italy shows that the current pandemic will likely cause a temporary but dramatic drop in overall real estate transactions. So all of the team that's listening to me right now, take this to heart. But the information says that in China, during the early stages of the outbreak, transactions dropped significantly, nearly 100%. So we're at this past week was terrible in terms of.
Again, take into account, though, communist country, they were pulling people out of homes.
No kidding. They were not allowed to leave.
You were suspected to have the virus.
I get that.
So we've got a little more play, hopefully.
But it was down overall. So that is something. Similar results in Italy, where they weren't so Gestapo-ish, like where they kept them isolated, with the top portal telling me that what's that? Missed that. Okay, except the transaction volumes down 20 to 40% in February and 70 to 90% in March. I remember that was when Italy got hit the hardest. And apparently in South Korea, national deal volumes down 80% the first 9 days of March, down 90% in the nation's capital of Seoul. The good news is that things are coming back, and that is probably the best news that we could to bring back in each of these countries. So anything that we see is a temporary issue that we will hopefully see changed in the next couple of months. We don't know how long, based on what we're hearing.
That's the key. That's the key. And we can only use the models from the other countries, and hopefully that we get in line and start to see a bend in the curve, as they say.
As we wrap up here, we've got about 2 minutes left. Any final thoughts from anybody who's on our team here in terms of going forward? Obviously, we've pointed out that things still are operating. It's a slower path. You can close a loan. You can apply for a loan. You can have a home inspection done. It's not as if the whole industry has said, okay, well, our hands are up, we can't do anything more. It's just taking a lot more creativity. And I will tell you that, go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, one of the things I want to say, Bob, is, as one of the guys who's actually out there in houses every day, because I have to be, I will tell you that the great thing about Kentucky and Southern Indiana is people seem to be taking the necessary precautions. I mean, if we're really going to slow this thing down, that's what we have to do. And I think it's good to see that actually playing out.
I'm proud of everybody who is doing that. To that extent, one thing that we started doing last week, and I'm not sure we're going to try it, we're waiting for our board to approve a virtual open house portion of our MLS. Hasn't been done yet. We'll see if it comes. We'll have one today. We started it last week. We tried it. Interestingly enough, a Facebook Live that I did brought a lot of people from Facebook over to our Zoom virtual house, where our agent, Heather, sat at her house and then walked people through virtually using our Matterport 3D tours that Greg's in charge of. And we had a chance to get people in and looking. So there are ways to get around shelter in place safely. It's all technology driven. I just wanted to let you all know that with that piece of optimism, we're going to say thank you for our folks being here today. Chuck Crosby, Crosby Law Offices, 499-6360. Also in for Kevin Disler over at Pitt and Frank Attorneys, Kelly Human at 895-9900. Lee Harris, Legal Counsel, Limestone Title, 649-7964. Brad Lawler, owner of Home Team Inspection Service, 357-0813. And Randy Rocky over at Swan Financial, they do a great job. We just got to get them a better internet. Are you at the lake house right now? Is that where you are?
No, I'm at home.
You're at home. We got to work on that. Who knows what that might mean in terms of your internet connection, but you can reach Randy at home or at work where he's got a better internet connection at 645-0736. My son, Greg, who does our marketing, thanks, buddy. Always a pleasure. You do a great job, and I'm very proud of you. And you can reach me anytime on my cell phone, day or night, weekends as well, 376-5483. We hope you have a very safe weekend and weekday. Next week, we will join you, God willing, right here on News Radio 840 WHAS. All right, so that ends our show. That would be on the radio. If you came to YouTube to watch us, you are now seeing a behind the scenes. Anybody have anything else to say that you didn't get a chance?
I'm actually really curious, Randy. You had touched on something, and I know maybe we don't want to mention names, but you did before we started recording. That mortgage company that you were talking about that's getting all those requests, my mortgage is actually held with. I'm paying my mortgage. Do I have anything to worry about? I mean, if they go belly up, like what would happen to my mortgage technically?
No, they would sell it. They come in
somebody else. Okay.
When it happened last time.
Well, right. The Fed is buying mortgages.
They sell it off.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
But that was when you said that, I was like, oh.
No. You're saying, who was it? What was the big one that folded up, guys?
Yeah, that's good. The federally backed loans are really
countrywide.
Safer.
Countrywide. That's right.
Yeah. Some of them are not federally backed, and those are the people that are going to, just really need to pay attention to what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. How do we know as a borrower with a mortgage, how do we know which are federally backed and which aren't?
Sure. Your Fannie Mae's and your Freddies and all of those guys are federally backed. It's smaller companies, but that's something that would be in your paperwork that you can contact your lender.
Yeah, just look at your mortgage form.
92% of all loans are Fannie or Freddie,
right,
or Ginnie. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all portfolio products, local banks.
It's weird, Randy. When you listen to the playback, your voice starts to slow down and then it stops. But it's got to be an internet connection. Are you with who? Is it Insight or Spectrum?
I mean, I have a great internet connection here. I don't know what the problem is.
Are you on your Wi-Fi or you're on your phone, right?
So I think
yes. You know what? I didn't even.
You're not on your Wi-Fi.
My Wi-Fi.
That's it.
I wondered if it was bourbon, but.
Well, I know this sounds really nerdy, but if you are grabbing your phone around where the antenna is, and you have like a metal ring, it can mess up the signal if you're streaming at that level. It's very possible.
I thought maybe Randy was an Android tonight.
He could have been. It sounded a little like it.
Holding the phone. That's why.
No, I think.
So Kelly.
Yeah.
Kelly, you see the people come in with the gloves and the mask. Do you then see them touching their face with their gloves? And
so that's the thing about the gloves.
The phone. That's the thing.
I know. They sit there
and put it on their face.
There's a great video about the gloves don't matter. If you got to wash your hands. If you go into a store and you've got a list and you've got gloves on, then you touch your phone. You put your phone in your back pocket. You've cross-contaminated. You touch your face. You've cross-contaminated. It doesn't matter. The gloves, the mask is what they're saying. If you have it, it will help you from transmitting it to somebody else.
I don't know about y'all, but I can't believe how itchy my face is every second of every day that someone might be looking at me when I'm not supposed to be touching my face.
Yeah.
Well, worse yet, when Lee coughed, everybody's looking
at Lee.
Lee's in her bedroom. Lee's in the bedroom and she's coughing.
No, Anderson Cooper was on CNN the other night and he coughed in the live and then he had to double back and was like, "I'm not sick. I cough sometimes at night."
Well, the other thing that I'm seeing is people pulling their masks down to talk to you.
Yeah, I know.
It's like don't touch the mask. Leave it in place. Yeah, that happens.
You grab it by the straps, not the actual.
That's right. You don't touch that part.
There's some really good.
Bob, can you hear me better now? Can you guys hear me better?
That is better.
Yeah.
Put your video back on.
Oh, well, that's what happened. No, my
now the show's over.
I just didn't have Wi-Fi on.
Yeah, the show's over. Okay, well, now we know for next week. That'll work.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, throw your video on so we can see if the video does any.
Well, I don't know how to get back to video.
All right, we'll work on that.
To do my Wi-Fi.
All right, so we'll work on that. We can do a test if you want one day, one night next week or something before we do the show.
Oh,
So
I think that was my problem.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we want to see your
Sound way
video
better,
too.
that's for sure.
And then Lee, on your end, we just need to have the light in front of you.
I'll get Julian to work on that because I can see that there's light behind but none in front.
You just got to put a lamp in front of you.
Well, do you have a
set up
selfie
like
light?
a little.
I don't have a selfie light. It goes on your phone.
Selfie light.
I don't have this, but this is a thing.
It is. It's round and it's a little light, and you go.
She doesn't have one, Greg.
Okay.
That
Just knows about it.
I don't.
It's like $10 or $12, and it's great. Yeah.
I don't have one, but I'll look
If you were to
into it.
screen share right now, Kelly, it's in your Amazon to-go card, I'm sure.
Well, right. I didn't get it yet. I don't actually have it yet.
And the question is, when will they deliver it if you do order it? Because a lot of people are looking for it.
Right. Did you all hear about UPS?
About what? Greg, you just dropped out.
There's a bunch of UPS, the UPS delivery. There's a lot of like PPE and stuff coming from China directly to Louisville. And the story just ran. There's like a lot of stuff coming. And they just reopened Wuhan. So it'll be interesting to see now what happens over there if cases spike back up or whatever the case may be.
So if you want to hold up somebody that we should all emulate, it's Brad Lawler. His lighting is even. His background is even. And this
he's got an LED bar down there somewhere.
Greg, you kind of look like you're in prison.
So
I
took the lampshade off.
Off the lamp.
See, this is why we all want to be you, Brad.
I took the lampshade off.
I know.
There's no good lighting for me.
Brad's perfect. He's got the perfect
He's tall,
lighting.
he's good looking, and he's got hair.
His shirt is perfectly pressed. I mean, he's got it all going on.
Fancy microphone. That's what I want.
Well, he got it at Best Buy. What did you pay for it? $100?
$100. Yeah, Kelly, I was looking for a business model, but they don't have any out there right now.
The microphone.
So I had to buy the 15-year-old gamer headset, but it is in home team, red and black. So
there you go.
I was trying to get, at least stay in the color combo.
It looks very professional.
It
honestly.
sounds great. It really does.
Bob, next week I'm going to have a special wall hanging where my interior decorator daughter-in-law hung the clock on the blank wall. I've got something very special for next week. It's going to be very subtle. We'll see who picks up on it, but.
Feel free for all of you when we do this if you want. And Kelly, I'm not sure if you're doing this next week. Oh, Kelly's figured out about the.
Let's go the virtual.
Yeah, I love this too.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, and if, I don't know you or Kevin, but this works really well. I don't know how you feel about it. I was kind of iffy on whether we should break it down to just a smaller group, but I think if we just go around the horn, and what I would tell you is. For this next show next Wednesday, when we record it, look for wins. Make a note. Wins is what we're looking for. Things that have happened that are positive in this real estate economy in Louisville and Southern Indiana. And if you're not going to be here, Kelly, if you would let Kevin know about it, because I think there's so much negative news, and I was somewhat apprehensive about sharing the what's happening on the West Coast and then over overseas, but I think we got to be honest and real when we're doing this stuff, so it's not like we can just ignore it. So, all right, gang, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Good night, folks.
Have a great week.
Yep, and Brad, well,
Yes,
I'll
sir.
call you tomorrow morning and we'll talk. I'll figure out the path how we're going to get that done.
Okay, we'll figure out the right time to do it because I think I got some flexibility.
Okay, and then the rest of you guys on the attorney side, we'll figure something out in the week after or so to how we'll do the videos for you guys as well. I want to get you promoted.
Okay.
Okay, folks, take care.
Okay.
Thanks
a lot.
for everything.
See you.
Thank you.